House Republicans inching closer to a vote on President Trump's big tax and spending bill. Emily Wilkins is in Washington. They've been working, I don't want to say 24/7, but pretty much.
Hey, Andrew. Well, look, it seems like this story might be coming to an end soon, at least in the House, because the Trump mega bill does seem to be at this point on a glide path to passage in the House. And this, of course, comes after Republican leaders reached an agreement with some of the holdout last night. Now, the vote could come in the next hour or so, but you see there on the screen, that's Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries talking on the floor. And under the process, he can talk for as long as he wants. Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi both pulled this and went for 8 hours. So we could see passage soon. We could see passage later this morning, later this afternoon. We'll keep you up to date. But just a few hours ago, something I think really telling happened, because there was a procedural vote to get to the Trump mega bill, and all but one House Republican voted to advance that. And while members do sometimes support procedural votes without actually going ahead and backing the bill, both fiscal hawks and Republicans from high-tax states, they notched wins in the overnight changes to the bill text. So starting with SALT, the state and local deduction cap was raised to $40,000 for those making $500,000 or less. That is now official. It was tentative yesterday. And for fiscal hawks who are concerned about the debt, they got a couple wins too. Work requirements for able-bodied adults on Medicaid will now need to start by December of 2026. And then for those green energy tax credits, wind and solar companies are going to be dramatically limited in their ability to get these credits for projects. To qualify, most projects would either need to begin construction 60 days after this bill becomes law or be in service before 2029 to get the credit. Now, Republicans also eliminated the phase-out period there. But there is a win this morning for the nuclear industry. The bill not only protects tax credits for the industry, but it actually expands them from what we saw in the previous House bill. Credits regain the ability to be transferable, and existing projects are going to qualify for production credits until 2031. We're going to see very shortly if all of those changes are enough for this bill to pass in the House. And then, guys, the process is going to begin in the Senate. And this bill still has a long way to go. But if they can get it over the line today, it's going to be a major victory for House Republicans, for Trump, for Speaker Johnson, and for all those who have priorities within this package.
Not to front run the story, but just speaking of the Senate, where do you see the major fault lines in terms of what they will not go along with, what they will go along with, and then ultimately how this all comes together?
You know, it's a great question, Andrew, because we have heard senators voice some of their concerns, and it does seem like some of them are met in this bill. You had a number of Republicans from more moderate states saying, hey, you can't really touch Medicaid too much in this. Work requirements we're okay with. Anything more, we have concerns. It seems like the House has been able to deliver on that. At the same point, you have a number of individuals in the Senate who are deficit hawks, and they are concerned about the levels of spending. But again, the House was able to kind of hit that $1.5 trillion in cuts. They'd argue it's even more than that. We'll see if there's any more that these lawmakers want to implement. And then I would honestly keep an eye on those green energy tax credits, because while they have now made some allowances for the nuclear industry, there are some senators who say, hey, I've got projects in my state. They're bringing in jobs. They're bringing in revenue. And we want to make sure that those jobs are going to be able to actually materialize. Worries that if the tax credits are taken away, that might not happen.
Did you? I was listening very intently, but did you? Is it 2026 now on the work requirements? Emily, you mentioned that, so that they get that.
Yeah, at least December 2026, and if states can implement them sooner, they can.
Okay, but still leaves it largely untouched as critics.
Well, you know what? That comes a month after the next midterm election.
And, you know, I mean, it is interesting that there's some comparisons people are making to Liz Truss. Remember what happened and what happened yesterday with the 20-year, and she tried to, it was a mini financial panic because of tax cuts. So they totally defenestrated that entire thing. And next thing you know, Britain went back to its high tax, high spending, high inflation malaise, and it still hasn't recovered. I don't know if we're going to do the same thing here. The Journal's arguing that even though this isn't great, I guess it's like, you know, good versus the perfect. It's cuts a lot more than the Biden administration cut it, even that 1.5, and that there are some pro-growth things, and you just got to live with it, even though it doesn't really touch entitlements, and there's all these special little carve-outs with taxes, which bells and whistles. But I don't know. Do you think the 20-year in what happened yesterday? The Journal's arguing that just to extend the tax regime that was in place since 2017, that wouldn't be enough to cause a full-fledged bond panic.
I mean, Joe, again, for a lot of these members, I mean, yes, there are concerns about the bonds. There are concerns about the debt, the deficit. But at the same point, a lot of these lawmakers are saying, look, my constituents are going to get hit hard with higher taxes if we don't go ahead and extend a lot of these provisions. I think maybe another thing that will be interesting to watch in the Senate is the Senate has been very adamant about making sure that these tax credits are permanent. Usually for the process they're going through, you can only do things within a decade that have a budgetary impact. But they want them to go further than that. And I'm very curious to kind of see how that winds up adding to the debt and if that starts to make some lawmakers nervous and say, hey, maybe we just only do this for a shorter period of time.
Well, Emily, the other question is, what's included in this bill? Is it also the no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security? That's much more than an extension of the 2017 tax cuts.
No, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting because obviously these are things that Trump has promised to the American people. Some of them, like no tax on tips, again and again and again. It is something that lawmakers support. The Senate actually passed no tax on tips the other day with unanimous consent. And so it'll be interesting to see if any of those things maybe get pared down if there are concerns about the number of cuts or the number of costs for the bill.